What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday evening. And this is Orlando Real Live, where we talk about all things real estate, theme parks, and living in Orlando. We also go through Q&A and talk to people that live here in Orlando and from all over the world. And so today I'm so excited. I'm actually a little nervous. It's been a couple weeks since I've done this. I think 3 weeks since I've gone live. And I've just got to get back in the saddle. I've got a big night for you tonight in regards to number of stories, number of things to dive into, but you guys kind of control the show. And that's what I enjoy the most is the interaction with so many of you guys talking about this great area of Orlando. Tonight we're talking about, I named this like it's a wonderful over Orlando life. And so for me, it's going into the Christmas holiday season. So many holidays going on here. We're going through a bunch of different things that you can do here in Orlando that are outside of the theme parks, which I think are just as impressive as some of the stuff that's in our theme parks. We're talking about real estate. We're talking about some big stories here locally. But before we dive too deep into what's going on here, I want to talk to you guys and figure out where you're watching from. So going through some of these great people that are already checking in. They already know the story. They know what's going on. We got Joseph checking in from East North Carolina. What's going on? Kristen checking in. What's going on next week? Kirsten, you and me. We're going live together, 7 o'clock. She's over on I-4 checking in. Stephanie's checking in from Simpsonville, South Carolina. Good to see you as always. Winston, my friend, checking in. Thank you so much, by the way. You're always giving me so much encouragement. Like, dude, when are you going to go live again? I needed to take a couple weeks off just to kind of like Thanksgiving time. My family and I, we went to Disneyland, which if you had never left Orlando to then go visit Anaheim Disneyland and get those stories that come out where people are like, so wait, you left one Disney to go to another. Yes, they are very different. And my family wanted to go and we had the most amazing time. But anyways, yes, I am back and super excited. Juliet says, hey, what's going on? I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hopefully to be residents of Winter Garden, leaving Long Island, New York by July 2020. Well, listen, stick with me because we actually have a story about New York and Orlando. And so lots of people checking in. Rick checking in from Athens, Georgia. Go Dogs. How about Go Blue? Man, my Wolverines just crushed this year. I'm so excited. Johnny checking in from Livonia, heading back down to Florida after Christmas. Got people checking in from London and Horizon West and Miami. What's going on? Bree checking in from Mount Dora. Man, you guys showed up tonight. So thank you so much. It means the world. I'm rocking my Orlando Magic basketball hoodie tonight because Orlando Magic, they're 13-5. They're like ranked number 2 in the NBA in the standings, which is so cool. We've been going to more and more games. If you've never been, by the way, if you're like even just a casual basketball fan, the Orlando Magic is an amazing time. The stadium, the crew, obviously the product on the court is amazing right now, but it's a really good experience. Like the whole time just flies by, and it's so cool. Let's see. Great sweatshirt, 8-game streak. That's right. See, Thomas knows what's up for sure. So Don says, how was my DCA trip? Tell us about it. It was good. We went the week before, like we went Friday before Thanksgiving and we left on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So we weren't there for like the day of Thanksgiving. We were already back here. But by the last day, my wife and I, we looked at each other. We're like, we are so glad to be going home because it was getting insanely busy. But the thing I love about Disneyland over Disney World is like everything is themed. The Haunted Mansion is themed, like Pirates, like literally every ride that I love has some sort of holiday overlay, which I think is really cool. And let's actually go right into from that question into this. And so this is actually a Visit Orlando holiday and Christmas events Google map that they put together. And I thought it was really well done. So I wanted to share it with you guys. I will definitely drop this in the comments in the description below after the show, but they go over all the different local stuff, both in the theme parks and out. There's actually 21 different events for the holiday season. I should do a whole video on this because I was shocked. Some of these I knew about, other ones I didn't. And so you've got like Eola Winter Wonderland going on from December 23 all the way through the end of the year. You've got Dazzling Lights, which is honestly one of my absolute favorites. This is over in Lou Gardens. It's gorgeous. Let me see if I can go to their website, see if we can look. It's like one of the more Instagrammable places that we have in Orlando, but you've got to walk through Lou Gardens, which if you don't know is like this botanical garden. It's almost 50 acres in the city of Orlando set aside for this. And it's this just beautiful, again, very Instagrammable, very family friendly walk. And it's fairly cheap too. To go and visit and enjoy this. And so I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but going through just some of the more highlight ones I thought were really cool. You've got Santa's Mission Possible Pirates Dinner Adventure now through the December 25th. all the way down to Kennedy Space Center. I didn't even know that they have a holiday event going on. So very cool to see how many things are inside and outside of the theme parks. Obviously, we know Walt Disney World has Jollywood Nights, which if you heard the initial reports was not so great, but then now more recently, people that I've heard that have gone, they've said it's been amazing. The crowds were crazy day one, but then it's gotten better and better. They've been able to manage the crowds, manage the food and that kind of thing. It's been a really good experience. We were able to, Universal had us out to go try out their holiday events. And that was a lot of fun. I got to meet the Grinch, and so good. Like, just like their actors are just next level. And so, yeah, there's so many cool things to go see here in Orlando at the Halloween. Gosh, long day. At the holiday time frame. Some other things going on. We got the Orlando OUC half marathon going on downtown this weekend on Saturday. And so if you're looking to run, if you're still a runner, I do believe you can still get a bib and get in there. They're going to have roughly 4,000 people run this, and they do a 5K and the full half marathon. Starts at 7:15. And this is the first year they're going to be actually televising this over on Wesh 2. And so very similarly to how New York just had their run, their full marathon, which I was able to take part of for the first time. That was the most amazing experience. Downtown Orlando is going to do this, and then very similarly to New York, like follow it, figure out who's the winner, and pull us people aside and find out where they're from, and watch the whole race. So I think it's just really cool. I'm signed up for it. So if you're out there running the half marathon, I want to say hi. If you see me out there, I'll be the guy that's a little bit out of breath. Kristen's running the half. What's going on? What's up, Mark? How are you, buddy? Happy holidays from Tampa. Good to see you as well. Let's see. Mr. Ken, did you enjoy the World of Color? I watched it last night. I have not seen it. I definitely need do that. Dizdeb says, I'm checking out the Dazzling Lights this year. Yeah, you need to do it. It's a really, really cool experience. And you get to take it like on stride. Like, there's no rush to it. You can really just enjoy it. And they do a really good job. This year, I think, and last year was brought to us by Creative City Project. And they just do an amazing job for the arts scene in Orlando, both over in front of Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, just kind of throughout downtown Orlando. They're always doing really, really cool stuff. All right. Somebody asked me the most crazy question. Xavier says, have I ever tried Jeff's Bagels? If you've not followed me online anywhere, then you would ask this question. But if not, you know, I'm a huge Jeff Bagel fan. By the way, they're opening all over Central Florida now. I think they've got Celebration location opening in January. They've got a Claremont location. They've got, obviously, their College Park and Ocoee locations. Best bagels in Orlando, in my opinion. Shout out Jeff and Danielle. You guys are amazing. Let's see. Kat says every Friday in December, Boxy Park in Lake Nona, 8:30 to 8 is an aerialist show. Free Christmas. Go with the friends and family. That's a great tip right there for sure. What's up, Navek from Massachusetts? Good to see you. All right, let's keep going on with the stories for tonight. So the next one is brought to us by the Orlando Business Journal. I found this article earlier. And so this is Florida ranks #1 in the United States for population migration, where most New Yorkers moved. So last year we had 249,000 people move here, mostly from New York and California. And so a lot of people moving to Miami and throughout Palm Beach and Miami-Dade counties. But Orlando was where a lot of these people moved. And so we've kind of seen a lot of people from the Miami-Dade area start coming up towards Orlando and over to Tampa, because it's getting a little bit more unaffordable than Orlando is. And it's just a little bit different pace of life. And so we're getting a lot of calls from people that moved to Miami from New York, from DC, from Chicago, from just all of the Carolinas, and said, you know what, we thought Miami was for us, but then really we think that Orlando kind of might fit us a little bit more. And so that's been a really cool and interesting sort of thing to see. Going on with that, Lance Lambert, he's over on X, is where he kind of puts out a lot of his content, but he owns this company called the Resi Club, and he puts out really good stats. Like, the guy is just a big stats nerd, and I'm a little bit of a stats nerd, as you may know. And so this guy puts out really, really good stuff. So this is 10 housing markets that expect to see the most home buyer migration in 2024. And before I show you what this is, basically Redfin and a couple other websites got together and they said, where are we seeing people look online, like where are they located based on their IP address? And then what cities are they searching for the most? And this was a really interesting thing to me to see, kind of like the future of the migration? And is that going to be the same as what we saw in 2022 and 2023 as we go into the future? So let's go into this. So top 10 housing markets expected to see the most home buyer migration in 2024. Redfin says home buyers want to leave San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles. And here's where they're going. So it looks like number one was Sacramento was seeing a huge in uptick. Las Vegas was seeing an uptick. And number three on the list, Orlando, Florida. Now, we actually stayed really steady. If you look at the net inflow from October of 2022, there were a lot more people interested in looking at Vegas and Sacramento than there were today. Whereas Orlando is staying really, really steady with the amount of people that are interested here and want to move here. And so I thought that was interesting to see. You look at like areas like Tampa. Tampa had a huge uptick over, especially through COVID and over the past couple of years, and it's seen a bit of a slide back in terms of interest, whereas Orlando stays really, really strong. So I think that's a really cool thing. Obviously, as somebody who lives in Orlando and lives and that lives, works, plays here, that sort of thing. So let's talk about this as we progress through the stories tonight of like people moving from New York and California, and people are asking me often like, are they paying cash? Are they the ones driving up the prices? And yes, but it's not actually more cash sales that we're seeing. We're seeing a higher percentage of cash sales. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But here's an epic one cash sale that happened over the past couple of weeks. This is a vacant lot over in Park Avenue, sold for $6.85 million after owners demolished the mansion. It's the most expensive lot apparently that's ever sold in Winter Park. It's a 2-acre lot that's sitting just right. It sits on Park Ave, and basically it had like a 20,000 square foot house in it at one point. And then they said, "Hey, it's not selling. Let's sell it for the dirt." And check this out. I mean, that view is just epic. 2 acres, walkable on Park Ave, walkable to the shops on Park Ave, sold for almost $7 million. Now, this is the crazy things, right? We're seeing these kind of things happen. Somebody is going to have to buy that lot, and you typically want your lot premiums to be roughly 30% of the overall value of your house. That's the way most appraisers and banks will look at it. And so in this case, this guy is going to have to build a $20 million house, $22 million house, which is to see that kind of numbers. We're seeing that in Windermere. There's been a couple big sales over in Isleworth, and there have been bigger sales in Winter Park. But to see kind of people looking at what's going on is an interesting one. So I've got an interesting one. Oh, let's see. Gosh, I got to go catch up here. I have a partner, Kristen, Bree, anybody else who wants to come hang out. Anyways, it's easier to keep up with the comments here. But Dave says, "Dude, how are you? We're taking the Bright Line for a trip from MCO to Miami this Saturday. So excited. Hope you're well." Dave, I want to reach out to me afterwards. Send me some video over on Instagram. It's at Ken Pozek. I would love to see how your trip went and just kind of give me your hot take, just off the cuff, because we are seeing more and more news, both locally and nationally. People are talking about the Bright Line, in that how this might be a blueprint if we can continue to have it work. It's interesting. Over on Instagram, we've got this. We cover the Bright Line from time to time, and the comment section is always like, "Oh, that's way too expensive for people that live in Florida." Like people that are, "I live here. I'm not going to take the Bright Line. There's no way. I'd rather just drive." They're used to being car dependent. But then when I see people from the UK comment or other places in the country that have a lot of mass transit, they're like, honestly, it's not that much more expensive than what we see here in Europe. And so I'd love to hear your guys' comments on this. I mean, because it can be expensive. It's like $79 up to $150, $140 per person. But to me, it's like I get 3 hours of my time back and I don't have to sit in traffic. And when I get there, I can jump in an Uber and come home. So yeah, that's, I think, a really good thing. Dave said he's got two tickets for $78 round trip on sale. That's awesome. I think that's, to me, slam dunk, no problem. Daniel says Tampa's interest is sliding and Orlando's holding steady because Tampa doesn't have Ken Pozek. You know what? Every city should have somebody that's as big of a hype man as I am for Orlando. I just love living here. It's like the coolest, to be quite honest with you. Let's see. Who else did I miss over here? My neighbors from Long Island. See? Yeah, there you go. Let's see who else. Some young guy says he can't afford Orlando because you need to spend 1.5 million on a duplex. Listen, man, I bought a duplex last year for 450, and you could buy one, rent out the one side, do a little house hack. It's definitely still possible. So let's talk about housing and that sort of thing, and the cash thing that I had mentioned earlier. This is an interesting visual I saw online. I'm going to give you guys a little bit more of a. There we go. There's the whole office. If you guys want to see what the set looks like. So I thought this is a cool little visual here. So hopefully I don't spill this all over me right on live. That would be so cool. It would make for good video later though. All right. So take this and think about, this is like the full market, the full real estate market, if you will. And this is sort of like what happens. This right here is, we'll call this everybody who gets a mortgage. And then on this side, you've got everybody who paid cash for their house. And for the longest time, that's pretty much how it broke down. You had about 25% of the market paying cash and about 75% that got a mortgage. Now, what's happened over the past year or 6 months is that the cash people have really stayed about the same, but the amount of people that have applied for mortgages have gotten out of the market. They've just decided they want to kind of disappear and sit on the sidelines and see what happens. So now we still have the cash buyers and we have the mortgage buyers. And yeah, there's still people out there. And as a percentage, the cash buyers are more, but they're about the same amount. So just because we have all of these people coming from California and New York and that sort of thing, the number of cash sales is about the same. People are retiring and they're coming to Florida. People are selling, yes, and taking some cash and moving to Florida. There's people selling in Orlando and just moving to another area in Orlando, taking the cash and buying a house. We are seeing that, but the percentages are up, but the number is the same. So then as the interest rates are coming down, we have more and more people back in the market that are getting mortgages. And then it kind of balances itself back where it's always been, if that makes sense. So I thought that was kind of an interesting visual that I saw somebody do online with some pinballs or something, but they got the red water and that makes sense to me. But let's talk about mortgage rates and like what's going on with mortgage rates, because they have come down over the past month. Like they got up to almost 8%. And then I started looking around. I said, okay, US Bank is looking at, they're quoting 6.875 today. This doesn't obviously have any fees that they're disclosing. Wells Fargo on a 30-year fixed, you're at 6.625 with some APR. So there's definitely some costs associated with that. Quicken Loans actually becomes like the most clear in terms of how they're basing these pricing, but their 30-year fix is 6.875 if you pay 1.875 in points, which is just a percentage of the mortgage. So if you've got a $500,000 mortgage, you're going to pay roughly, roughly 10,000 or 2 points. So $10,000 to buy the rate down to 6.875. So overall, we're looking kind of like high sixes, maybe low sevens, depending on what you get. Here's some interesting ones to me when I was looking over at Wells Fargo, because they break down their ARMs, their 15-year and their 30-year. So if you want to get a loan locked in for 6 or 7 months, or 6 or 7 years rather, you get a 6.375% interest rate. 15-year mortgage, it's 6.75. So interestingly enough, here they show that it's actually a little bit higher on the 15-year, and that was always lower for so many years. You'd get like a significant discount on a 15-year. So the fact that this is kind of inverse to me is interesting. But yeah, low six or like high sixes, low sevens is better than 8. And so I think that as rates continue to retreat, who knows how long that'll happen. Maybe it's over the next 90 days. Maybe it's over the next 2 years. We don't really know. You only kind of go off the market at the moment. But for me, I think that we will start to see, especially at the beginning of the year, more and more buyers start kicking back into the market as rates continue to decline. Let's keep going through. Here's actually an interesting one. Let me make sure I don't miss any comments before we keep rolling. Linique, I think you said something about Keller Williams earlier, and you asked if I was part of Keller Williams. Yeah, I am. That's who we hang our license with, for sure. What's up, Marco from Hunters Creek? Dude, guess what? I don't know. That's actually not you that usually mentioned it, but you from Hunters Creek, so you'll care about this. There we go. I'll go back in. We're doing a Hunters Creek video finally, because there's a dude that's always on here talking about how I don't talk about Hunters Creek ever and that it's a great city and I should do a video there. So we're going to next week, just for you. Good to see you, by the way. I feels like historic Hunters Creek is compared to so many neighborhoods. Maybe you are the same guy. You just change your video, change your name. That could definitely be. Little late, Oviedo. Oh, what's going on, Kelly? V from Oviedo. Good to see you. All right, let's get back over here. So, National Housing Survey: customers increasingly sour on the economy and blame inflation. This was actually this was November 7th. So this is like 3-4 weeks ago when rates were still high sevens and that sort of thing. But housing market frustrations continue to, with survey record of 85% of consumers saying that it's a bad time to buy a house. And this is the thing I tell people all the time. Like, I'm not pushing anybody, whether it's 2020 and it was a really great time with super low interest rates and prices were going crazy, or now. Like, either way, you have to make a sane decision for you based on what you can afford. And as rates come down, there's going to be more and more buyers in the market and prices will go up. But until then, here's some really cool stuff that we notice on our team is that builders are really feeling the pinch. And while resale isn't seeing as big of a jip off, new construction, you've got a lot of these builders that they're sitting on land that they've developed and they have to offload. They have to get, many of them are publicly traded. And so if they don't put contracts under, that's a problem. Got my little ticker back there is so loud. I'm not sure if you can hear it or not, but anyways, so we've talked about different builders around town. Toll Brothers just called us the other day and they said, hey, we've got in a lot of our new neighborhoods, West Haven at Ovation in Horizon West. That's like, I think, a fantastic neighborhood. They're giving a $55,000 incentive if you sign a contract in December. Now that to me is a massive deal. And you can use it for lot premiums, design, or closing costs, meaning that you could buy your rate down into the fives if you really wanted to, or offset some of the costs of the house. And there's a lot of builders doing this. And so those kind of incentives will go away as rates come down. And so you just have to ask yourself, like, is now the time to buy, or should I sit on the sidelines and wait? And that's completely up to you. Like, I'm honestly not pushing one way or the other, but it's just some things to think about as a counterpoint to so many people saying, well, rates are super high. Now is not the time to buy. Because you could buy a rate down and get a house, and many of these builders are going to be tripping over themselves to help you do so. That might be a good option for you. Ken Spencer says, any word upon the road connecting Celebration Village with Reunion? Dude, I think this is going to be probably a 5 to 7 year kind of thing by the time they're finally built out. 5 years makes a little sense. I think they've got about 2 years until Reunion, until the next section is going to open up. They have to have a whole new bridge that they have to build from section 1 to section 2. And that's going to be like a good year. And then they have to develop the lots, and then you're kind of there. And so then after the next section, they've got 2 more until it opens up over into the Reunion area. So that's why in my mind, it's like a 5 to maybe 7 years before that road all the way through opens up. So it's really up to you what you're looking at. All right, Dave, any new interesting permits? Love when you share that data with us. All right, I've got one that I was interested in. And Dave, I want your input. You got to give me some input here, man, because you asked for it. Okay. So I found this one. I'm just going to give it to you. So it says Jaws Ride Universal Park Building. Jaws Ride Universal Park Building. It's not a big permit. It's only $511,000. So it's not like it's a ride. They're not bringing Jaws back. But I thought maybe that's like the summer tribute store. That's what I'm kind of thinking. And I've got some other ones that are more on like the residential side and some other stuff that a lot of apartments coming in the pipeline. Not any new neighborhoods that I was really excited about other than some small ones. But I want to know, like, if you are a theme park fan, especially a Universal fan, Jaws Ride, Universal Park Building, $500,000. What could that be? I think it has to be the tribute store, but I don't know. Like, you guys, let me know in the comments what you might think that could be. And I'll keep going through some permits this week and see if I can't find something even more fun for next year for sure. Let's see. Dave says Hunters Creek votes against their bright line in their hood. They did. And it's honestly, if I'm them, I understand it. Like the noise and the construction, the attorney that found the fact that they apparently 50 years ago put some sort of thing in where there can not be any light rail in Hunters Creek, and that put the whole kibosh on that. I don't know what he got paid, but he probably should get paid well. That's what I would say. Let's see, what else do we got going on here? Oh, here we go. Let me answer this before I go out. Don Juan says, how do people from out west like California for example, tend to adjust to moving to Orlando? Do they seem to like the big move? Man, this is a very mixed bag. I have some people that are like, oh my God, I wish I would have done it sooner. I have other people that are like, I miss it. And some go back. Some people split time and they keep their California house and keep their Orlando house and split time. It really depends on why you came. I think that, some people come for lifestyle and many of them are good. They love it. They're all in. Other people, if they come for jobs, then they're like, some people like, I want the job, but maybe I want the lifestyle of California. And so maybe they go back and forth. But yeah, it's a mixed bag. I feel like the people on the East Coast are more the people that like come and stay. Whereas the Northeast and West people are the people that are a little bit maybe more flaky every time. Let's see. Sorry, just going back through. I know I missed a bunch of these. What's up, Christopher Sullivan? Hello from Phoenix, looking to migrate into Orlando in the next 5 years. Well, what's going on, man? I'm glad you're here. Oh, so Dave, I'm just going back, catching up, man. So we sold our Virginia home this July, and we're full time here. It went for 65,000 over list. We're very happy we bought here when we did in 21. Oh man, 2020 was a great time. 2018 was even better, but 2021 you did it well. All right, I've got some more. Let's talk about space. Now, this is an interesting thing to me because while I love theme parks and I love the hospitality, I think that Florida can be and Orlando can be so much more than it already is. And so, I mean, obviously, an hour from here, we've got Port Canaveral, we've got rockets and NASA and Blue Origin and SpaceX and all of these things. There's over 50 launches that happened in Florida this year alone. We're on track to break our record from last year, which was a record in itself. And so there's a new CEO of Space Florida, and he says he has far-reaching goals to extend the boons of space into the entire state. And so essentially he's saying, hey, listen, I don't think that it should just be the aerospace industry should just be in just sort of like the Cape Canaveral area. I think it should be spreading out. And so he gives some examples on how, Central Florida is part of that in terms of being able to do semiconductors and a lot of other hardware deployment and things that people can build here and then ship over there, or even different places around the state that's where maybe they'll do new launches and in different places that can take on the space industry. That's not just this area. But when I look at this and he talks about the jobs and all the other kind of things kind of pouring over, I think that's a really big deal. Titusville, it's not where in my opinion, it's not where it needs to be to support a lot of the engineers and the high paying jobs that's an hour drive, a 45-minute drive down the 528. People are taking advantage of areas like Lake Nona and some other more suburban areas that are a little bit more built out. And so I think this only helps us, which got me thinking, how many people actually work in the space industry here in Florida? And I'm glad you asked. So it says NPR did a whole thing. I'm actually going to listen to this. This was just a few weeks ago that they did this, but to infinity and beyond, how space impacts Florida's economy. And basically the same gentleman, this one was Jim Gregory, the Dean of College Engineering at Riddle Aeronautics University. He talks about how space impacts Florida. And, essentially there's 150,000 jobs that are related to the space industry here in one way or the other. And so that's the big thing, like, reaching for the stars. And to me, like, as a kid thinking about space and the vastness of it was amazing. To me, space travel was in the past, right? If you believe what we made it to the moon. I'm just kidding. I think we did. But space is now. And it's such a really cool thing when you start thinking about the jobs and the future of Florida. It doesn't need to just be hospitality. It can have that as a base, but then having more tech and medical and aviation, I think this is a really cool thing. So basically they're talking about Central Florida is the biggest winner when you think about space travel. And I think that's a really cool thing. So then digging into this, because I'm like a big nerd on this stuff now, all of a sudden, is like how many jobs were related that I could find online? Like what is, like, if I wanted to be, if real estate just wasn't for me anymore and I wanted to get into space, that's highly illogical. But if I did, there's a lot of people hiring right now. The biggest one, it seemed to me, was actually Blue Origin. And I thought this was an interesting one. Their goal, their whole thing is the role of this part of lunar transportation business unit, the further Blue Origin's mission of having millions of people living and working in space. We're building a sustainable infrastructure to make that happen. What? They want millions of people to live on the surface of the Earth. Surface of the moon is the lunar surface. This is wild to me. And so going through, you've got like NASA, fire protection engineer internship, Blue Origin, French National Space Agency here in Orlando. There's a lot of jobs here. There's also Space 220. Don't get that confused. That's actually at Epcot. That's actually not going to space. But yeah, lots and lots of jobs for the space industry happening right here. Good paying jobs. And so when people say Orlando doesn't have great high paying jobs, Central Florida anyways, we definitely do. Let me know what you think down below. Are you super excited about this as I am? Miami Coffee says, are people leaving Miami? Rents are getting out of control. Yes, they are. And what that's interesting. People in Orlando say rents are getting out of control. But then when you compare it to LA or New York or Miami, rents all of a sudden seem fairly inexpensive. And so we've got people that are business owners or work from home that are making Orlando home and finding this a great place to live. I do think, Kristen, yeah, we should start getting our space real estate license. If we don't want to sell here anymore, we can maybe like start selling on the moon or on Mars. And so we should start the first real estate agency in space. I think that's it for me. Let's get into some theme park stuff. So if you don't know, I'm a big nerd for this as well. I'm just a big nerd in general, but Hatbox Ghost came to Magic Kingdom today. If you didn't know, this is actually a photo. This was like when it was getting put on. Let's see, make me disappear. There we go. This is when he was going, they were putting him in and installing him, if you will. And then now he's finally there. So if you've been to Disneyland, which I got to see him there and see him, it's my favorite. We've got like a painting of him at the house. Anyways, he's now appeared over at Magic Kingdom. So I thought that was a really cool little pop-up that just was exciting for me that happened over the past 24 hours. So I need to run over there after tonight. I'm going to go run over there and see if I can make it before it closes. Let's talk about travel. And we're going to talk about travel and Airbnb, because these are really important things for real estate. And then we're going to wrap up for tonight. So make sure you drop any questions below that you might want answered on today's show, and we'll do that. So travel, I thought was an interesting one because people have been talking about how overall travel in Orlando, overall travel in general was down for the summer, and what's going to happen to Airbnbs, what's going to happen to Orlando in general. You've got Disney and Universal and SeaWorld offering all these types of incentives for people to come, right? So whether you're Floridians and you live here or you're traveling here, they're giving dining plans and all types of discounts to get people to come. And yet when I look at what's going on at Orlando International, Orlando Business Journal had a story just today talking about how activity is up 11% year over year. There were an additional 4.8 million people over the past 12 months that came through MCO, which is insane. 56 million annual passengers came through. And some of that is because our connections are starting to get more and more through Orlando. But when you look at overall travel, came here, then left the airport, 11% year over year. And so at the same time, we're getting calls from our Airbnb owners, and they're saying, hey, listen, we don't see as much income as we did this time last year. And I think last year they still had, a lot of people had the hangover of like the COVID hangover, where they wanted to travel. They had the itch. And so we had government money. We had a lot of other things that made this happen. And yet this year it started to sort of fall off. Well, the numbers would show that we're up 11%, but Airbnbs are seeing a little bit less. This could be that Disney and Universal are opening up a lot more hotels. It could be a lot of things, but here's an interesting thing. I looked at the Kissimmee submarket over on AirDNA. This is actually such a cool website. It's like, I think it's $300 or $400 a year is what we pay for it, but it shows exactly what's going on. Currently there's 48,000 active short-term rentals in Kissimmee. That's like, for those of you who don't know, that's like Reunion. There's a lot of neighborhoods that make up Kissimmee, and Kissimmee and Davenport are like the two largest Airbnb neighborhoods or cities in Central Florida. Many of the HOAs and neighborhoods here locally don't allow short-term rentals. And so because of that, the areas that do usually get more oversaturated with these kind of things. And so how is the Kissimmee market looking over the past year? So they're saying that how does it perform out of 100? It's currently a 76. Occupancy rate on average is 63%, and that's down 10% year over year. So that thing that I was telling you, where a lot of our people are calling us saying that, hey, our Airbnb is not performing the same way that it was, they're correct. If you were looking at a pro forma of 73% or 80% occupancy, and now it's 60% or 63, yeah, you're probably hurting a little bit. And when you look at the average nightly rate, it really has not dropped dramatically. 2% over the past year, it dropped. It's still at 335, but when you look at your occupancy rate, that's where you're getting hit. And a lot of people are noticing. Annual revenue on average, $77,000. That's gross revenue. Like, that's if you didn't have a mortgage, didn't have a homeowners association, didn't have taxes, but gross revenues, $77,000, and that's down 16% year over year. And so it is interesting to see that even though people are traveling, maybe they're not doing Airbnb as much, and or maybe the builders just got a little bit too aggressive in terms of building some of these. And so while we see some areas like Winter Park, where you've got pricing continue to go up, and some of the downtown areas and Winter Garden and Windermere prices are continuing to rise, other areas are starting to see property values flatline and or even go backwards a little bit. And so it's an interesting thing to kind of pay attention to as we sort of go into this interesting time. I do believe that as interest rates drop as well, that now some of these things will be a little bit more affordable. And so if pricing in the short-term rental neighborhoods continue to pull back, you're getting a 10, 15% discount there. Then you're also able to get a lower interest rate. And now maybe those cash flow again, it makes sense. But it's just something you have to look at. What I always tell people with rentals and short-term rentals, this is a big important thing, I think. Are you getting into a short-term rental because you want to be an investor? If that's the case, you probably should go do a long-term rental. There's plenty of, I mentioned the duplex earlier that we crush it on. There's those out there that make sense. Airbnbs right now, in my opinion, short-term rentals are amazing if you want to come use it yourself for 2 to 4 weeks a year and have someone else offset the costs of your taxes, homeowners association, upkeep, utilities, all of those kind of things. That's what Orlando used to be. It was a bunch of people from the UK and Canada and Brazil that owned Airbnbs here. They'd come holiday here for a month or two, and then other people would offset some of the cost. And I think that we probably will start to see that happen more and more again, where it's not these people just throwing a ton of money at it, hoping to make massive rates of return. And instead, it's people that want to use it for holiday and have somebody offset. That's my opinion. And I think the numbers are starting to bear out that way. Oh, JJ, there you are. I knew my dude was just talking about it. So you might have missed this, my man, but I'm going to do a video next week, literally for you. So we're doing a Hunters Creek video, and I hope you share it. I hope you share it everywhere. You better give it a thumbs up. You better give me a comment, all that good stuff. What's going on? Flora, I appreciate the super chat. That means a lot. You've got a question. It says, as total home sales decrease significantly, is this a horrible time to get into real estate sales? Listen, it's actually never been harder to be a real estate agent as it is today. There's more real estate agents in general. And so that makes it harder in general. And then as overall units or number of homes trading falls, you have more agents looking at fewer deals. And so the ones that are more established are actually doing really well. Like there's like our team, thank God we are up significantly over last year. And that's because of amazing people like you. And the folks watching this show tonight, you guys support us in an amazing way. And it's like, I'm super grateful. But the people that got in over the past 2 or 3 years, where they were kind of order takers, where they just opened a door and wrote a contract and got a check, those are the people that are struggling. They don't have they don't have the value to add to the market. They don't have the sales skills and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of people that have already left the business. I think it was something like 100,000 people have already left the business since January. And that's probably a good, healthy thing in terms of just a product to be able to offer. You know, the more value you can give back to clients and the more service that you can give back to them, I think it makes the real estate industry better. So anyways, that's my thing. Kim says, I want to know if that's a monorail door behind me. It sure is. That is from, I think it's a Mark II or Mark III from the 80s. It's from Walt Disney World. I bought it from an auction house in California. And my man Chase was kind enough to bring it up the stairs for me when I was on vacation. And so I actually had something over the glass. So I painted it and then anytime someone goes live with me here in the studio, I've been having them sign it. So I've got some cool people that I have gotten to sign it. So yeah, it's one of my favorites, Kim. Thanks for asking. Navek says, thanks to your team, I get to stay with family when I travel to Orlando. I love that. So Michael says, VA loan question. If I already have a VA loan, how can I find out if I have enough to qualify eligibility to use for a second house? So that's a mortgage. I definitely talked to Greg, our in-house lender. The dude's amazing. But by the way, I understand that you can't have 2 VA loans at once. So you'll have to sell one so that you can then pull it onto the next one. Oh, awesome. Lena says, my daughter works at Haunted Mansion. She was there today working for his opening. That is just so cool. Aftab says, Ken, you're officially a nerdologist. You know what? I like that. I'm going to take that if that's okay with you. I'm going to take that at home. Dave says, Blue Orchid has 2 buildings at Kennedy's now, and AW's is building a new Culper building there as well to complete the SpaceX for space-based broadband internet. Yeah, Amazon Web Services is going to go nuts over there. Like I think they took on 100,000 square feet, and they're going to be doing more. So that's again better paying jobs, more things that come to that area. I think it's pretty cool. Spencer says, Ken, how do you carve out valuation differences on neighborhoods with HOAs that prohibit short-term rentals but share zip codes with popular Airbnb developments? So Spencer, I always look at it neighborhood by neighborhood. So for example, the most common one that we get is Celebration. So Celebration is in 34747, and so is Reunion. They're both technically in the city of Kissimmee, or said that they have Kissimmee mailing addresses anyways, but Reunion allows short-term rentals and Celebration does not. And so I literally just carve out the exact neighborhood in the MLS when I'm doing a radius search to make sure that I'm comparing apples to apples. Cause yeah, they zip code wise, you don't want to get it too crazy. AirDNA, by the way, though, if you do want to look at it from that perspective, you can go neighborhood to neighborhood on that as well. Vicken says, might check out a Lake Nona move. That's awesome. I'm gonna be in Lake Nona tomorrow morning. I've got a meeting there. Super exciting. Lake Nona is great. I think that, if people, they talk about Disney pulling out of there and how that's going to rock the area, and it really hasn't. The amount of other companies that are in the pipeline that I know about that are coming to there are exciting to me. And they finally do have Target and a bunch of other things coming that way too. And so that's going to be, I think, a really good thing for Lake Nona, get some of those creature comforts that so many look at. But the jobs there are why people are moving there and believing in that area. So yeah, congratulations. Eli says, what areas of Central Florida are best for house hacking? So Eli, I would look for 2 things. One, I think downtown's an easier one, because if you want to do the duplex thing, you've got like Eustis is an area, like West Lake County, Lake County is you have some duplexes. I'm trying to think of other areas that have them. They're not a lot of them here. And so if you want the traditional house hack where you buy a duplex, downtown Orlando has a lot of them. Sodo's great. That's where ours is at. You've got a bunch of them though throughout the city of Orlando, like the downtown area city. Or you could always do that, or find one of these areas like a Lake Nona or a Celebration that has a garage apartment. Those things rent out extremely well. And so I know I've got clients of mine that live in Celebration. We sold them a house that had a garage apartment. Now it needs to have a kitchen and a bathroom, not just the big open space above there like some of them have. But they're able to rent those things out for like $2,000 a month. And so it offsets their taxes, their HOA, a lot of their insurance. So I think that's a really great option if you don't want to, if that doesn't give you 50% of your payment, but it offsets a lot of the costs of owning a place. Let's see. What's up, Chris? He said, hey, dude. What's up, dude? WW says, explore and chill. That's a cool name. Woohoo, a Target. Yeah, I mean, listen, you got to have it. Pickles says, any word on Sam's Club coming to Horizon West? Pickles, it was supposed to be right next to Walmart. They announced it like a year ago. I just haven't seen anything moving over there. I drive by that area all the time, and I haven't seen any dirt move. And so I was like, I'll look for some permits for next week for you for sure, because I think that's actually, people love that. The Costco that opened up in Claremont, people's minds went insane. Like there was like the parking lot was packed. There's a line around the building. Kind of wild how that stuff works. Costco, who would have thought? Man, I had missed a ton of them up top here. Well, if I missed your comment, I sincerely appreciate you hanging out oh, here we go. So Linique says, what can I buy with $30,000 down? You can do, let's think about this. $30,000 down. So here's the crazy thing. The HOA, oh gosh, this is actually great. I cannot believe I didn't talk about this. FHA loan limits have gone up for 2024. They're going up to, holy moly, they're going up to from 472 up to 498. This is insane because when I first got in the business, I'm an old person apparently. FHA loan limits were 297. So they're almost double that now. And so you can get a house for 3.5% down plus your closing costs. And in today's climate, many builders and sellers are going to help you pay for that if you need to. And so you can get in, buy a $500,000 house for $20,000 down like that and be in the FHA range, which is kind of insane. And I think that's actually going to spur a little bit more affordability for some people to be able to get in. Now you will have PMI. And so meaning you got private mortgage insurance. So your payment's going to be a little bit higher. So if you don't have the full 20% down, but if you had 30,000 and you want to get into a house, that's kind of wild to think that you could have the seller pay your closing costs, buy your rate down a little bit, and you could get in for 3.5%. Boom. There you go. Let's go Magic. Thomas Cutler. All right, everyone. So it's been about 40. Oh, let's see. Still packed. Robert says it's still packed in Costco. That's wild to me. All right. Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up. I'm going to answer some more of your questions afterwards and on next show. So make sure you comment down below if you're watching the replay. If you've watched all the way through and you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up and subscribe. It does help the algorithms push this out a little bit so more people can learn about this amazing place that we call home. And this episode and this live, as every video that we do, is sponsored by my real estate team, the Posit Group. Check us out over on Google. We've got 750 some odd 5-star reviews. We're here to help whenever the time comes. We want to provide value for you. Whether you're looking now or long into the future, we are here to help. But thank you guys so much. I hope you have an amazing holiday season, but I will see you next Thursday. Bye.